there's some other things I think that we need to sort of look at and unearth. Um, and I also think that when we show the academic data in the meetings to parents, they're often very surprised at that data, which also tells me that we have a better job to do as a district in helping our parents become familiar and aware of what they need to know in terms of demanding quality school.
I'm Jill Shaw, and this is Last Night's School Committee. Ross Wilson and I are here to summarize for you what happened last night during the Boston Public Schools School Committee meeting. Ross, good morning.
Good morning, Jill. Happy Thursday and happy belated 4th. We're in the throes of summer. It's beautiful here in Boston.
It's amazing.
Albeit a little hot. Thanks for filling in for me last month and for bringing AI in. I think I'm hopeful that since you didn't invite AI back this meeting, that I still can be your co-host.
No. You're much better co-host. That was, it was a whimsical attempt, but AI is just not where, well, I meet a lot of 20-year-olds that argue that AI just isn't really going to replace humans, and right now I would agree with that. In this case,
In this case,
not,
just this case.
yeah.
At least for a few more months.
There's a lot of great things that are happening with AI, but man, it was fun. It was fun to try, but we missed you, and I'm glad you're back. Now, let's jump into last night's meeting. But as usual, the meeting last night began with the superintendent's report, and it was filled with some important updates about key issues that we had been following. Superintendent Skipper began with remarks about staffing across the district. Here she is.
168 central and school-based positions, the majority of which are connected to the approved school closures and classroom consolidations. And we'll discuss those later tonight at our update for the long-term facilities plan. This adjustment maintains a consistent 10-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio from the 2025 to 2026 school year into next year. And it also follows a new funding formula that ensures every school has the academic programming and enrichment opportunities that our students and families deserve.
Superintendent Skipper also offered an update on the district's summer programming, including high school credit recovery for students who weren't able to fully achieve credits during the school year. Here's what she said.
We have 2,252 students who are currently enrolled in high school credit recovery. This is across 12 sites, and there are 358 students enrolled in middle school course recovery opportunities. I personally am thrilled to see so many of our high schoolers taking advantage and middle schoolers to get their skills built up, to get their credits recovered. To me, this is a very hopeful sign. We actually had to add capacity here because we had such demand. So that can be a good thing.
All right, so Jill, like a few things here. First, I want to applaud Superintendent Skipper for giving a bit more clarity on the staffing situation for our teachers.
Yep.
This is, by the way, this is not just about like how many permanent teachers are placed in jobs, which is kind of what they focused on last night.
Right.
They basically were saying everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Permanent teachers will have jobs. Mm-hmm. Jill, this should be a much deeper conversation, but because in fact,
always,
we talk a lot about hiring of teachers and provisional teachers. In the newspaper, we've read articles over the last few weeks about teachers being cut from their jobs.
Right.
These are teachers that many of them reflect the racial, cultural, linguistic diversity of the students that we serve.
Right.
And those teachers have been cut.
So because they were last in.
They were last in. And right. So what we should
not necessarily folks we don't need.
Right. Exactly. So I would rather, I appreciate the data, but I would rather the conversation be about having an effective teacher in every one of our students and ensuring that happens. It seemed like last night the superintendent was more focused on ensuring permanent teachers, every permanent teacher had a job, and that job, she would even go as far as to say, I hope that job is close to their home, which is not my interest. My interest is in serving every student and ensuring they have a great teacher in their classroom.
Right.
So, Jill, I think that deserves a much deeper conversation, and hopefully we'll have more of that conversation in the fall when all the staffing positions have been filled.
Right.
Now, regarding the part around the superintendent saying she is thrilled to see so many students engage in credit recovery.
Right.
And they actually had to increase capacity because there wasn't enough room in credit recovery. Now, we have around like a little over 3,000 students per grade, and we have, I think we're at about 2,300 students in credit recovery. Now, credit recovery for those people
Of our age.
of a certain age, that means summer school.
Yeah.
That means you failed a course.
Right.
So it's nice that we have more students enrolled in credit recovery, but that means we're failing more students during the school year.
Right. And so they have to use their summers to take
Yes.
the class over
Yes.
again, as opposed to working at a job,
Yeah.
doing things that are nourishing and enriching.
Yeah. So like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's great that we have more students enrolled in summer school,
Right.
but this is really not, this is a problem of our school year and general classes. And we just can't be celebrating the fact that we have more students failing classes and taking summer school.
Yeah, I think it's totally right. It's just not entirely honest the way that they're framing it, and I
No.
sometimes I worry that the way that it's being framed by the district makes the, school committee members lose sight of
Yeah.
how, like, what it's a little bit smoke and mirrors,
Right. They're
and
like,
the
oh,
really
things are going really
big
well. We have more students enrolled
credit recovery.
yeah,
Well, but go 2 layers deeper, and is that a problem or is that a success?
exactly.
So, the superintendent also noted that the city of Boston joined an important nationwide lawsuit. Here she is.
This morning, Mayor Wu announced that the city of Boston filed a lawsuit on behalf of the BPS against Meta and other social media companies, including TikTok, Snapchat, and the YouTube. Um, the lawsuit is alleging that these platforms harm children's mental health and deliberately target them with addictive design features. The research is clear. We've talked about it here. We've also heard young people come and testify to this.
Yes, we are very happy that the mayor and the superintendent finally joined the lawsuit.
Yeah.
They have followed 1,200 other districts around the country who've already logged in and said we're concerned about social media's impact on our kids. So let's be honest, we're a little late to the game.
Yeah. Well,
But late is better than never. And I'm glad our city leaders are holding corporations responsible for what they've done to our at the impact they've had on our students. And I do want to give a shout out here, Jill, because school committee is about shout outs. It is Sociedad Latina.
yeah,
The
right.
young people from Sociedad Latina came out every time at school
Yeah.
committee pushing to join this
Yeah.
lawsuit, pushing to have an impact, to say we need to do something about social media, and they've had effect here.
No, kudos to them. I mean, I think maybe we just don't have the most technically savvy administration, certainly school committee. So it's good news that they're finally jumping on board with this lawsuit. It's sort of ridiculous that the social media companies have been allowed to just run rampant on
Mhm,
our
mhm.
youth and what they've done to them. After the superintendent's remarks, Dr. Stephen Elkins followed up with Superintendent Skipper to ask her the results of the exam school preparation programming during the summer. Here he is.
My second question is actually around the exam school initiative. So I know last year I had asked about, do has anyone been looking at any data that sort of shows like a correlation between those students that are in ESI and either an increase in their scores when they take the exam or their placements? Has there been anything there that we've
Yeah,
noticed?
To which the superintendent replied,
yeah. We saw a pretty significant jump
Right.
year before. Those that took it, we had, I believe it was like I think it was like a 40 or 45% went into the exam schools, maybe 50. This past year, it was closer to 65. So we definitely are seeing, and I think parents can be reassured that participating in ESI leads to the greater outcomes when it comes to the exams and preparation for being able to go in there. And as you remember, and the committee actually asked for this, we've extended the ESI down to the fourth grade for the Rising Fourth. So, we're hoping that that even has a stronger impact in preparedness, especially as kids do it multiple years.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see this, Jill. I'm pleased Dr. Alkins followed up here. And it seems that the district is tracking this initiative
yeah.
to see what the impact is. And it's good to see that more students are gaining access to the exam schools after participating in the exam school initiative over the summer.
Yeah. crazy, man, though. Like the past, whatever, it's been 5 or 6 years since they just blew the whole thing up.
Yeah, I mean, well, yes, not to revisit that
Yeah. No, we don't I
emotionally,
don't want
but
to yeah.
but it is, yes, it's been 5 or 6 years. Um, we it seems like there's stability now.
Yeah.
We have not necessarily seen an update
Yeah.
on
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 outcomes,
how
right?
students are doing
Right.
in the exam school, in the exam schools, which was promised. But I think everybody maybe is just like, let's not talk about it anymore and
You're right.
um, move forward.
I
But
know, and I'm even saying that, but, it was a roller coaster ride, and I'm not sure
well, we changed the
that was good
policy.
for
We changed the policy year after year after year,
yeah.
thereby creating confusion and disorientation for
And
families.
stress and people fleeing
Totally. And then
and
we wonder
the right
why
kids.
only half the kids are
Yeah.
that used to apply for exam schools are applying for exam schools, why we have declining enrollment. And we'll get to this later in the episode, Jill, when we talk about the master facilities plan. But our families want consistency, they want continuity, they want certainty. And by keeping families in the dark or changing things on families, creating confusion,
Yeah.
does not help us with enrollment.
Right, that's exactly right. After the superintendent's report, the meeting moved on to hear an update on various collective bargaining agreements for a number of union bodies that work within BPS.
All right, quick summary here. Essentially, BPS gave a number of small unions 2% increases plus $800 on a 1-year contract. Why 2% plus $800? Well, I don't know.
Mm.
But that's the same. They gave the same, nothing else. It was just simply, there was no like change in work conditions or anything like that. It was simply 2% increase plus $800. And these are all 1-year contracts. It's
Right.
interesting because BPS was saying there's so much fiscal uncertainty in our district that we can't commit to anything longer than a year. So let's kick all of these just for a year. Let's see where we are next year, and then we'll negotiate again.
Yeah, the problem is it's always they just always negotiate up regardless of what the budget possibility
Yeah, it's
is,
just how much
and
up.
then they have to then they lay off, to balance it. So, I don't know.
So
It
maybe,
seems
I
like
mean,
there should be
maybe giving them the benefit of the doubt here. Maybe they're saying, okay, we'll give them the 2% plus $800. It'll give us some space
yeah.
and then help us understand where we are with fiscal certainty. And maybe they have to make hard decisions then. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's just something to watch for, I think.
mhm.
After the collective bargaining presentation, the meeting moved on to the public comment period. Now, Ross, I think we had a record last night with only 2 public speakers.
Yeah, to use a term from the superintendent and mayor, historic.
Historic.
Only 2 public comments last night.
Wild.
Wild. Yeah, I mean, also, we
It
had
was
the
a
most.
nice summer night, though.
Yeah, Noah Collins at Fenway. I mean, it was like, why not be outside, right?
Beautiful.
That's where everybody is. A nice summer night.
Yeah.
Yeah, two public commenters, and but Jill, it's not always about quantity. Could be about quality. So it was great to have Deirdre Manning and John Mudd here last night.
There you go. That's right. Let's begin with Deirdre Manning, who spoke about a lack of clear data from Superintendent Skipper. Here she is.
I also wanted to point out that it's the third admission cycle where the superintendent had promised to provide information on student outcomes related to the exam school admission construct. That information has not been provided. And what I think is really disingenuous is for the superintendent to state as school committee members that we want you to vote on a policy that amends the exam school construct and that we don't want any more changes for, I don't know, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it was. I think that's ridiculous when you haven't actually fully informed school committee members about how the program is working. That information on student outcomes, I think, is vital to evaluate the success or lack of success of the changes, and to have school committee members take
30
this vote in a
seconds.
vacuum is simply not acceptable.
And John Mudd opined on the substance of the superintendent's evaluation.
As you think about the priorities for improvement coming from the superintendent's evaluation and the priorities for work this summer, there is nothing more important than making it clear to the superintendent and staff developing the strategic implementation plan than having SMART goals in critical areas. Many school committee members repeatedly stressed the need to have annual goals for improving student achievement. The school committee should insist that when it is asked to review the strategic plan developed this summer, it must include SMART goals in a number of areas. Obvious ones would include student outcomes on state tests, the reduction in achievement gaps, and teacher and paradiversity. Without progress in these areas, BPS will not be fulfilling its responsibility for improving education and life opportunities of our children.
Joe, I love both of these public comments. In both instances, the common thread is really about accountability. I really appreciate John and Deirdre. They are consistent. They rely on data. They speak very clearly about, and they're unwavering in their advocacy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, on the exam school data, as we just noted, where is the data on the outcomes as Deirdre keeps on pushing? And look, in the same vein with Mr. Mudd, there needs to be more data involved in the superintendent's evaluation, and we'll talk about this in a moment.
Right.
But I really appreciate both Deirdre and John pushing on the school committee.
Agreed. After the public comment period, it was voting night for the school committee. Votes included the approval of grants, in-kind donations, collective bargaining agreements, supplemental appropriations, horseman policy adjustments, appointments, and private school applications. The committee voted on and approved 19 different items, all approved. It might be the lowest number of public speakers, but Ross, tell me, do you remember more votes in a single night since we've been doing this?
This is unreal. It was so many votes. It was quite amazing, and we actually had 2 abstentions in those votes, just for fun. And it was almost as if everyone had fatigue from voting so much last night. But when people say like, what does school committee do? They took 19 votes last night.
Yeah.
That's like a lot, and it was like it was.
I just didn't even realize all of those were piling up. But I guess some of them came in and were introduced last night.
Yeah. I think all these collective bargaining agreements,
Yeah.
all these amendments, it all added up. But let's go back to the superintendent's evaluation for a moment, because that was one of the big votes last night,
Yep.
and it was presented at the last meeting. And Jill, we've done some work on this actually, and we'll get into it. But first, let's start off with something that I thought was interesting. At the end of the conversation around the superintendent evaluation, Dr. Alkins, who's in charge of the superintendent evaluation, along with member Skerritt, he made sure that he created space to thank somebody that was important in the evaluation process. So here he is.
Again, I will never stop. Will never miss an opportunity to give flowers to Rebecca Granger for sort of wrangling Vice Chair Scarrett and myself for a lot of this process. So shout out to her and the great work that she's doing.
So important to note here, Jill, that Rebecca Granger is a advisor for the mayor, works for
Right.
the mayor,
Right.
does not work for the school committee,
Right.
doesn't have a job with the school department in any way.
Right.
Rebecca Granger works for the mayor, and it's always interesting to me when we can see how the mayor directly engages
Right.
the
The school committee members.
The school committee members.
Yeah.
And in this case, it was very clear that the mayor's advisor on education was the one wrangling school committee members to get this evaluation done. And I would argue that this is not the position of the mayor. This is the job of the school committee. School committees are
It's the number
legislative.
one job.
It is a number one job.
Yeah.
They operate separately from the political system. But in this way, we've noted this many, many times,
Yeah.
trying to see where does politics come into education,
Right.
and when does it interfere? And
Right.
it interferes a lot in Boston in education. And this is another example here where the mayor's office is getting involved in the core function of the school committee, which is the superintendent's evaluation.
Yeah, and therefore potentially the core outcomes.
Absolutely. I want to give a couple interesting takes on the superintendent evaluation. And I really, really, really hope our listeners read our blog today. I hope they read it every day, our show notes, but I hope they actually read it in this episode. Because what we did is we went through all of the evaluations from every member, and then we added data
Right.
that they didn't use in the evaluation, and we came up with sort of the data for the superintendent's goals and each of the standards.
Yeah.
And I want to highlight a couple of notes here about how we saw some disconnection between the members' evaluations and the data.
Yeah.
So first, while members praised growth in MCAS scores this year, what was completely unmentioned in the evaluation was the historic achievement gaps of 2025. The gap between white and black students, as well as white and Hispanic students on MCAS, was the largest on record for grades 3 through 8 ELA and math, and for grade 10 ELA.
Yeah.
The largest achievement gaps we've ever had in BPS. Okay?
Yeah, that didn't come up.
Never came up. It's also really hard to square an effective grade on management with this year's $53 million budget deficit.
Right.
We literally had to go back to the mayor's office and ask for a special appropriation to cover twice to cover a budget gap.
Yeah.
This has not happened since in like 20 years. Right?
That's not good management everywhere.
Right. So how members can praise exceptional skill in managing fiscal systems, it's important to note the deficit was not a black swan event, as they say. The drivers were all well known.
Yep.
We had more hiring.
Yep.
We had escalating costs for insurance. We had
Which
higher
they
costs
had
for transportation.
negotiated.
Yeah, all of it negotiated, all of it in their purview.
Right.
Two members called it what it was. Member Peralta called it a deficit that was unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And faulted the district's initial forecasting,
Yeah.
while member Polanco Garcia put it best. Sound fiscal management does not simply respond to deficits when they materialize, it anticipates and prevents them from happening in the first place. Rating the superintendent as effective for managing a crisis it should have seen coming sets a really low bar here, Jill.
For what effective
So
is, yeah.
those are just two little hot takes. And if you want to read more, we got more. Even more on transportation and inclusion plan, all in our show notes today. And I hope folks read them.
Yeah, and the overall point of all of this is she got a raise.
Yes. Okay. So right. Sorry, I forgot about this.
Yeah.
Yes. So if
The
superintendent got essentially these minimal effectives,
yeah,
then she gets her raise for the next year, right?
Yeah.
And so
we're like sinking in a deficit of tens of millions of dollars.
Right.
And we've got the widest gap in achievement and lots of other things. Read the blog. And we're just pushing her forward and giving her a raise.
Yes. We should be exasperated about this.
But I guess that's our bar. As a school committee for the district, that's our bar.
Well, so maybe next year what we'll do, I'll see if we remember this. Next year what we'll try to do is before the evaluation, we'll come up with all the the that we think members should use.
I think it's a good idea.
Maybe it's helpful for them to see these data points because we don't talk about data at school committee. So maybe we can give them the data and then maybe they can use that in the evaluation.
I think we should. This is kind of crazy.
Additionally, congratulations to member Torres for her nomination to the Opportunity and Achievement Gap Task Force, despite Mr. Tran's abstention from the vote. We actually think all members should be a part of this group to ensure that we are doing everything in our power to reduce the opportunity and achievement gap for our students.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Then we moved on to another private school that is opening in Boston Public Schools. We got a lot of them.
Yeah.
And this was like really interesting, Jill, because the members were clearly at their last
they were tweaked.
The end of their rope on these new private schools. And this private school is the South End school that is replacing the Croft School.
Right.
And the Croft school
went bankrupt, right?
That went bankrupt.
Yeah.
And members really expressed their dismay around having to vote for another private school application. And they were really pushing on the superintendent to go back to the Department of Education or to whomever makes them vote on these things and to push back and say, we don't want to have to do this anymore.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't understand. Why do they want to be oblivious to new schools entering their district and taking students away from their district? Wouldn't you want to be in the know on that?
All right. So
what?
To that point, in fact, the superintendent commented that there are so many more schools being proposed as of late.
It also is just a resource. So we're taking Boston Public School resource to do this in the form of Dr. Clark's time and members from my immediate team to vet the different parts of the application. And so there seems to just be a mismatch in general. It would be different, I think, if it was one a year or something, but this is starting to happen more often. So I think we will definitely take your comments, Dr. Alkins and Vice Chair Scarrett, to a next level and report back.
I mean, so Jill, on this, it's like maybe the question that the school committee members should be asking is, why are there so many more private schools opening in Boston?
Yeah.
Are they somehow meeting a demand that we're not meeting?
Right.
And maybe we should respond with some more innovative models potentially. Potentially, I don't know.
Potentially. Well,
Um,
new product is flooding the market, and they're filling the schools, and so there's a question there for
yeah,
school committee. And that's another thing when I feel like this episode is a little bit about things that we wish school committee would dig further into.
yeah,
This is another thing. Why are you complaining?
yeah.
Ask why. Why are they coming into the
I
district? Why
got
are they taking your students?
I got an idea too. Like, this is a little bit out there, but what if on these like private school applications, what if they went to the private schools and they're like, hey, do you actually want to be a horseman charter in our
Yeah.
district? Like we're losing kids. It looks like parents are signing up for your
Yeah.
school. Why don't you come be part of
Yeah.
us? We'll let you have all the innovation. Well, we got buildings. We're closing a lot of
Well,
them.
we've got funding
We got
too.
funding. We got
Then
buildings.
you don't need to.
We'll give it to you. Yeah,
Yeah.
come on over.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Yeah.
that would be to me. That would be like what I would want a member to ask. Like,
Yeah.
how do we get these families and
Yeah.
these ideas
These are
into our
really
district?
great ideas.
Right.
Let's make them horse
Yeah.
and charters. Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, it's a good idea.
Thank
Anyway,
you.
Russ, we heard a long-awaited update on our long-term facilities plan last night, as well as the process of school closures and transitions for students. We hadn't had a substantive update about this for a while, so it was interesting to hear from the district. Here's Superintendent Skipper introducing the presentation.
So as we make these changes and work toward the goal of reducing the number of BPS schools to 95 by 2030, my team is focused on supporting our students and families throughout these transitions. We're working one-on-one with families to move students to higher quality learning environments and provide them with quality school choices. The entire district is prioritizing these students and their families every step of the way by ensuring a smooth, respectful transition from their former school into a welcoming school community. I'm pleased to report, as Dell will share, that nearly 90% of the students who transferred in district were assigned to their first or second choice school. Dell will definitely, dive deeper into the data in tonight's presentation, but that shows that we are moving in that right direction.
And here's the Chief of Capital Planning, Delavern Stanislaus, providing a snapshot of where the district stands now in the process.
When this work began, we had 114 schools. Since then, there have been 3 mergers and 10 closures impacting approximately 4,000 students at the time of the school committee approval. With the closures approved by this body last year, the total number of schools will fall to 100 by the end of school year 2026-2027. We are using an 18-month timeline for mergers and closures based on feedback we received through student surveys and community engagement meetings.
Chief Stanislaus also added further context about enrollment and about the next steps her team and the district will be taking in the future.
As this committee knows, we are anticipating further enrollment decline based largely on 2 factors. Lower birth rates resulting in smaller cohorts of students aging through the district, and fewer newcomers arriving to our district due to the impact of federal immigration policies.
Right. So, Joel, let's take a step back for a second. First of all, what we heard in this presentation was that we closed schools and some students went to the same quality of school that they went to previously. Some went to a lower quality school and a few went to a higher quality school.
Right.
We had really low sort of impact on transportation distance. Some neighborhoods and students in neighborhoods, their transportation went up in distance, some went down. High schools all around went up in the distance to another school.
Yep.
And that's kind of what we heard.
Yep.
We didn't hear anything about um, quality or how students were performing because
Right.
this is all new data, but they did promise to respond to that.
Right.
So that's what we heard last night. We did hear from a member last night that they said maybe we should think about rebranding this from facilities to a more comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
So we had Green New Deal before. Remember the Green New Deal?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We sort of stopped talking about that. And now we talk about master facilities plan. But I got to say, Jill, the other cities across the country are creating comprehensive plans.
Yeah,
Like,
master plans.
they're master plans, and they're plans that address. They're using this. Other cities like St. Louis and Pittsburgh are using this as an opportunity to address both the declining enrollment, to invest in facilities, to also deal with transportation costs, which we are the highest in the nation.
Yeah.
They're dealing with student assignment, and they're dealing with access to quality schools. All of these things need to come together into a plan, and that plan needs to be predictable for families. Families need to understand that plan so that they can invest in the system and invest in the choices that they're making for their child.
Yeah.
Last night we heard conversation both about reinforcing the idea that the superintendent, it's really good that she doesn't announce school closures too far in advance, that she doesn't give families the opportunity to leave a school or staff to leave a school, because if you created too much certainty around when schools were going to close, families would leave and staff would leave those schools.
Yeah.
I have such a hard time with this thinking, Jill, and this comes up in the superintendent's evaluation.
Yeah.
It has come up in almost every meeting where we applaud keeping families and staff in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other cities are capable and able to provide comprehensive plans to our families.
Yeah.
But in Boston, we are about saying to folks, hey, we'll tell you 18 months in advance, but we won't tell you before that.
Yeah.
And then we get upset that we have declining enrollment and we're losing 3,000 kids a year. We're losing families because we're not creating certainty. The second thing that comes up, Jill, is the question of, do we have families who are in schools that close and then they go to another closing school and another closing school? And the answer last night was, yes, we do, and we can't avoid it.
Right.
You can avoid it.
Well, you know where they end up.
We know where they end up. We could prevent them from going. If you
Summer
know a
school.
school is going to close,
They end up in summer school.
they end up in credit recovery.
Yeah.
If you know a school is going to close, Jill, and we do have a tool that we're creating and we'll roll out for families.
Yeah, we'll roll it out in the fall.
That will help families choose schools to go to.
Well, it'll just show families the data, like
Right.
take all the data the district has made public and just show it, shine a light on it, so it helps tell a story, so that families don't have to make decision after decision, which lead them down the wrong path.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. So we are capable. If Pittsburgh is capable,
Yeah,
I love Pittsburgh. It's a great city.
amazing.
St. Louis is capable.
Yep.
We're Boston.
Yep.
We often say we're the best in at everything.
Yeah.
But we are far behind here, and making excuses.
Or saying it's okay.
Oh,
This is a good idea
look,
to keep people in the dark.
let's be clear. Celebrating failure rate by celebrating summer school is incredibly low expectations. Celebrating the fact that we're replacing permanent teachers and not talking about all the provisional teachers that we're losing is really low expectations.
Yeah.
Not talking about the largest achievement gap in our history is really low expectations. And saying we're celebrating ourselves for keeping families and staff in the dark is unethical.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy to debate school committee members and the superintendent on this issue, but I implore them, look at other places around our country that are providing families a roadmap and create a roadmap like that for our school system. It has to be done.
And that's what happened last night at the Boston Public Schools school committee meeting.
We want to hear from you. If you have thoughts or concerns about how BPS is serving your students, please send us an email at podcast@shahfoundation.org. That's SHAH foundation.org.
Thank you for listening to Last Night's School Committee. We hope that you enjoyed today's podcast, and if you did, please rate, review, like, and share it with your fellow friends, parents, and residents of Boston. We all have a stake in the future success of Boston students. Have a great day.